So we had hopefully our other Last Jedi commentary will go up sometime before or after this one.
We had some days of sobriety, but since that moment.
We did. We
were all intoxicated by its effects.
With the quality jump, I'd rather do it again. But
wait, what?
Nothing.
Let's do that again. Shall we start again? Or
no. He's saying from our original movie review that we should have done that one again because the quality of that one pales in comparison to the quality of this that we're doing now. Since we have lighting,
that's what we're trying to do. That's exactly
we're growing and shaping every week, folks.
That's what we're going. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what. I'm not going to say that on camera. We'll get angry hate commentary.
Look at this, my Taylor coasters with the Taylor.
Oh, nice.
So you've seen it. We're talking about TLJ.
Seen it twice now.
I guess you can. Sorry, go ahead.
How many have you seen it twice? How many
Loved
times?
it the first time, hated it the second.
I would say after as many reviews as I've seen, I've probably seen it 10 or 12 times.
It's true.
And
a lot of nitpickiness on this movie.
So that's the first thing I thought. That's the first thing I thought until I really dove into some of the reviews and kind of did some deep thinking about it. And I'm probably the only one in the room, let alone probably the only one, There are only a few of us that feel this way, but...
You've developed problems with it?
Yeah, huge problems.
Oh, not
so,
me.
Anyway, I feel like it was an extraordinary film, but the whole process of me trying to figure out how I felt about this film has had its own story arc. Like, I just really feel like... I mean... In general, I don't know if you remember your initial thought when you first walked out of the theater. Do you remember your initial thought when you first came out?
This was an enjoyable Star Wars film.
That's what I thought too, but I didn't know.
And that was after 2 viewings. My opinion didn't change.
But after the first time, do you remember how you felt?
Same. No, that's exactly how I felt.
I thought it was a great film, but I didn't know whether I was happy or sad. Anyway,
I don't know if I would say it's a great film. I don't think any of them since the original 3 will ever be great films, except for maybe Rogue One, because they just got it. I don't know what it was about that film, but they got it. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a lot like the downer that Empire is. So, but yeah, I think it's a good film. I don't explore it too deeply because once you start pulling on that thread, man, it's not hard to unravel the Star Wars universe.
Oh, and you're taking so many people along with you.
So I'm just gonna get these things off my chest and be done with it, so that you guys can just sorry, this is kind of a therapy session.
Just get it all out, man. We're here to listen.
So someone online was talking about how it's like a love letter to Luke, and I get that. I get the love letter to Luke thing. And a lot of people think that people like me just want junk food. They called it junk food, saying that basically that what we want from Luke is just to chop everybody up and do the lightsaber thing. I didn't necessarily need that. I would have. It would have been cool. It would have been great to see him. I mean, like Kevin Smith specifically said, what he would have done with the scene when they basically pelt him with 10 billion laser bolts at the end. Luke,
every gun.
Like every gun.
What Kevin Smith would have done? Kevin Smith won't even do an action sequence. Okay, so what would he have done?
No, this is just. I'm trying
not to suck any dick on the way out of this.
I'm trying to give credit where credit is due, and he said specifically they would have him at least, like just deflect all those laser bolts and knock the ATT, whatever. The point is that like he's a force projection, so there's all these things that make him, kind of half there. But anyway, the point is someone said a love letter. I thought more of like it was like an evil breakup letter. But I didn't necessarily need the junk food. I just needed maybe just a little bit of that, more of a more heroic than something that was just so disposable. I felt like he was disposable. Just to quote Brick Ninjas. He said, let's see.
Is it Lego Brick Ninjas?
Yes. He said specifically that he was just talking about like how Luke Skywalker is the most important part of the Star Wars universe. You can sit there and say this, so and so is right, so and so, Jar Jar is most important, etc. All these things, but the reason why Star Wars is so successful is because of Luke Skywalker. That's the reason, because of people like you and I, people our age.
Sure, but if that was the intent if that was the intent
sure.
to do a whole series of films based around Luke, George Lucas wouldn't have waited 20 some odd years to do a follow-up series. You know, like he had no intention of doing any more. It was 3 films, and people should have been happy with that, because now no one can. It's either love it or hate it. There's no middle ground. Everyone's all extreme one end to the other. I love these movies. They're a lot of fun. They're a big part of my childhood, but they're not Shakespeare, folks. Like, it's pure pop culture. It's all junk food. I don't understand the we're not waxing like deep philosophical, like the Force all binding. It's not.
Yeah, but
it's not Taoism or Confucianism or anything. You know what I mean? It's a movie about aliens and princesses, and it's. So I think people defend it with terminal intensity and take it too seriously.
I do, because I wanted to be Luke my whole life growing up as a kid. So I wanted
to be Luke. I wanted to be Captain Kirk. I wanted to be Wolverine. I wanted to be Batman. But you know, they are what they are. It's pop culture.
So anyway,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
More.
So
it is a hero's journey. I mean, that's the original Star Wars, for sure. And this is kind of what's bringing it back around to that.
Well, his journey ended.
Yeah.
So, and one of the biggest, just my personal opinions of this film is that literally that they let him basically do whatever he wanted in the middle of a 9-film series, so it didn't even feel like it was part of that 9-film series. Rey doesn't have to train at all. She's just super powerful for no reason. One of my favorite characters in the Star Wars universe right now was and is Phasma. I fell in love with her book. One of the greatest books in the Star Wars canon. So anyway, and they just killed her right off. The problem I think with that is essentially is that they're, you know, a lot of what's happening right now is that they're not connecting the books to the films, and so
they shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
they really shouldn't have to.
And that's honestly
they never did before, because these are based on movies that existed before.
What I mean to say is that the character is like literally nothing like she is.
Neither was Boba Fett, and yet he was massively popular.
Right, but what I'm trying to say is that they're making something that's that has continuity. That's the problem. They're supposed to be making something that has continuity. Anyway, so once again, I'm on one side of the fence, you're on the other side. Do you agree with any of what I'm saying, Neil?
I took some sobering moments. But, you know, kind of going back to your initial question, I left the movie theater on the first take feeling good. You know, I just felt, you know, like that was a good movie. That was, you know, as much as I would like to appreciate the expanded universe and the way that things have grown over the decades of this and be able to, you know, pull it back into the movies are where it started. This was never like books first and then became movies after that. And then you can always say that, hey, you know, The Lord of the Rings, you know, were okay movies, but the book, you got to read the book. You know, there's so much more detail in the books, and that's where you go to. With Star Wars, it's the opposite in the sense of like the movies first, and those books wrap themselves around the characters to where there's really no way that those movies can do justice to the books in those senses, especially with something like Phasma, because you have a character who was just only had a minute part in The Force Awakens, and then you've got a whole entire book to make her like absolutely the coolest thing.
That's what they do, is they create these small characters that aren't intended to be a focal point, so that writers can write these books and say it's canon, non-canon, whatever you want.
So off of that point, I mean, I try not to have too much expectation about the others. You know, as far as Luke coming back to the thing, I did start feeling a little disappointed as far as him being not as integral to the plot or the development of it as he really could have been. You know, he's there.
But was he? But wasn't he?
I mean, but if you think like his overall, what he does is kind of just play devil's advocate to Rey, just telling her to, you know,
but isn't
this
movie sort of about a passing of the torch, but also closure to the old saga?
Absolutely, and I think that's where they went.
Like if Ray had to
wholeheartedly.
come looking for him.
So, and I don't want to get into too many theories, but kind of in my secret heart of hearts, my secret heart of Star Wars hearts, what I really was hoping that Luke was doing was actually, falling back to this Force tree, this place where the Jedi had originated, to kind of develop his own techniques in the Force. Say, screw you Jedi, screw you Sith, I'm going to take this down the middle and start developing the gray and really kind of show Rey a different way instead of just, being afraid of her.
Right.
And afraid of what's going on and afraid of his past and his failures.
And
Even
being
though
a complete coward.
I can't understand where
Was
he's
he,
coming
though?
from.
Kind of.
That's an argument that
Yeah.
I did want to touch on. All the people that think that Luke, pussied out, but so did
Oh.
Obi-Wan and so did Yoda.
Well,
They all went
No.
into hiding. We
And-
failed. We didn't see the Sith rise, and the Empire
that's-
took us over and killed us.
That's
So we
fine.
run and hide.
That's fine.
That's
I'm
what
fine
Luke
with
did.
him running and hiding, but for him to continuously turn her away this whole time and literally being, in retrospect, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I should just force project myself on." It's just I wish I could have actually had him there. Like that's literally what I would have wanted.
That would have been cool.
And I mean that's fine. And
It doesn't ruin it for
It's
me.
a big reveal where it's like, oh my gosh, he wasn't really actually there. But it's like,
Well, because then it would bring up the point: where did he have time to dye his hair and get a haircut? I'm just saying, space barber.
He did have some nuns. He had some fish nuns.
That's true. I don't know. I guess with me though, as I never really had high expectations for after the Phantom Menace. Not that it diminished my high expectations, but I remember watching Phantom Menace the first time and being blown away like everybody was in the audience before everyone turned against it. And I remember seeing it the second time thinking, well, it's good, it's entertaining, it is what it is, but I mean, they're never going to be as iconic for me and my generation, I think, as the original three, because we literally grew up, saw them as children, and grew up watching them, so we bring a lot of that with us. We want it to be the same but different, and you can't do that.
It's not about being same but different. It's about just having your hero be a hero once more. That's all.
See, and I think he was enough of a hero that it satisfied, because they've spent 2 movies now throwing all these other characters out at you. Luke was only in 30 seconds of that first movie.
Anyway, that's the problem. So anyway, that's where you're gonna differ. Like, I really feel like they cheated him. I really feel like they cheated him, and like I was saying before, specifically that Luke Skywalker is the most important part of Star Wars, and everybody's going to differ with me on that. Whatever, everybody has a different thing, but honestly, the reason why Star Wars is so successful is because of all the young 12-year-old, 8-year-old boys who are going nuts for wanting to be Luke Skywalker. That's the reason why they sold so many
I don't know
toys.
if it's
That's
just
the reason
that
why
reason.
it was so. That's the reason why it was successful.
Plenty of young girls were crazy about Princess Leia and Han Solo. I think it's all. It may have been Luke's hero's journey, but I think it's really if they had cast, say, a young Kurt Russell as Han Solo, it probably wouldn't have been this big. You know what I mean? Everybody plays their part.
What I'm saying, yeah, that's fine. And what I'm saying is like the people who bought the toys, all these people who had supported it. That's the anyway.
You only bought the Luke Skywalker figures?
Everything.
I bought all the figures.
You're missing the point.
No.
Ben,
can I intervene as your producer? I think you're missing the point, because as much as your point is incredibly valid, you're encasing the whole saga on one generation, because my nephews are big Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know who Luke Skywalker is.
Of course, they don't.
They know who Anakin Skywalker
I'm
is.
talking about the beginning of. I'm talking about the beginning of it.
Correct.
So,
but it's your in my generation. We are hurt.
Right.
We are hurt.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that affects the entire saga.
I know that.
Makes sense.
I know that, but I'm saying that there is a valid reason why we should be heard. That's the point that I'm trying to get at. It's that the reason why Star Wars is successful is because of my generation.
You're assuming Disney give a crap about it.
I know that. I know that they don't. That's the point. Is that I know that they don't care. But that's the problem, and I'm just venting. So anyway,
if you're saying it's successful because of our generation, that would solely be based on the merchandise aspect. There were plenty of adults who went and saw this that didn't buy any of the toys and stuff. So I get where you're coming from on that, and you don't need to. I just don't
think anybody will understand what I'm trying to.
Well, I don't think you're understanding.
No,
I
get it. I get it.
I don't don't think you do, but that's okay. It's
but
not
I
worth getting upset.
I know.
I still love you. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a much bigger Star Trek fan than Star Wars fan, anyways. So
and I'm not, once again, I'm not trying to try to point fingers or any of that point. I'm literally just trying to. There are a lot of people who are right with me on this. A lot of people.
Sure.
And
that doesn't mean one side is right or wrong, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that are right with what Neil's thinking, and you know what I mean. All I'm saying is, what killed the level of intense fandom that I used to have, where I thought these things were sacred, was basically the Joel Schumacher Batman movies showed me that you're not going to hit it out of the park every time you're adapting something or making a sequel to something, and not everything is going to be epic and amazing, and sometimes you just kind of have to accept that this is the choice that they've made, and hope that the next film in the saga, because Disney will keep milking this, even though people are upset, they'll still pay to go and see it. I feel like a lot of people are paying just to go and hate on something because it's the thing to do, but as long as they make sequels, you just kind of, I think, have to try and be optimistic that, okay, if they misstepped on this one, hopefully they'll make better. Like for me, Force Awakens was a big misstep, and this was a much better film in so many levels for me.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people disagree. I've heard several people say Force Awakens is the greatest Star Wars movie, and I don't
think so.
So I think we can all agree that it isn't. But it's just
it's not a perfect film.
I'll agree.
It's
Rogue One. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Rogue One is okay.
Awesome.
Rogue One and Empire.
So Ben, I guess
I like the script way better.
I could go off and rant on this myself, but after reading and watching so many reviews and then talking about around the workplace with it actually kind of got to the irritating point, which is kind of sad in the Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is I'd like to get those particular points out that you're venting on, because I know it was a big hit for you, because like 2 days after this thing, and I saw you come into work, and it was like your father had been shot in the face in front of you. And
I actually hate the movie now. I really hate it. It's crazy. It's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. It's the strangest thing. I've never felt this way about a film ever, and it's someone described it perfectly. It's when they, it's like their emotion was sucked out of them. And that's exactly what happened. I feel like.
So was it just the Luke thing, or was there? It
was like the whole film sucked the emotion for Star Wars out of me. I literally feel nothing for this film. It's except for hatred. Well, not the same. Like, because a lot of people say that I hate this film. It makes you say. It's like I literally still don't know how to feel, because I am so baffled.
Ben, I think you finally accepted the dark side.
It's really weird.
I think.
But anyway,
and let's talk about conspiracies here.
That's.
I mean, don't you think when they do a script of a movie and a project so important, don't they have focus groups? Don't they have pre-screenings?
Sometimes, not always.
Not on this one.
I'm
probably.
sure they did.
I'm sure.
I mean,
if they did pre-screenings for this, it would have been for the executives of the studio.
And I'm sure that's the emotion they wanted to
evoke. They honestly can't please everybody, because with something like Star Wars, everybody has an opinion of how it should be or how they want to see it.
Well, or
and
how
not
the
everybody's
magic
gonna
affected them, or how that.
Right.
Star Wars is a magical thing, regardless of how just absolutely out of the realm of physics or real science it is, or anything like that. I mean, it's a magical kind of movie. And something that hits people
like
Star Trek down on space. Who cares? It's Star Wars. We love it.
It's not 2001: A Space Odyssey.
But it's like I have the conversations with kids who are younger, and maybe your nephews are like this too, but just love the freaking lightsaber battles from the prequels. And I'm like, meh. They're okay.
See, that's what I've been waiting to see with the lightsaber battles.
I was waiting to see that too, but then when I finally saw it, I was just like, it's cool, but it's almost over choreographed to the point where it loses it for me. It loses that emotional grounding, and not to say it's not cool, but it's just something different. I just
don't take them as seriously. I mean, they are what they are. They're popcorn movies for me, so I go and I have a good time, but they don't affect me in the same way.
And I think that's kind of what I got out of Last Jedi is that kind of feeling too. That I was, after a few sobering days, the emotional high of Star Wars and actually having a movie that I was so excited for, because the Force Awakens was just like, hey, here's regurgitated this. We're just trying to recapture the magic and set up a next generation.
Yeah.
So it was like, The Last Jedi was coming in with, okay, this is not going to be a regurgitated movie. This is going to be something entirely different with all sorts of new plot points. And You know, and
some of the things you thought were important that we were seeing in the first film aren't important.
Yeah, well, so I was excited for that. I was excited for just something completely, entirely different. But it also gave me that point of like, hey, I was excited. Oh man, got that great Star Wars high. And then after thinking about it for a little while, I was like, yeah, that was kind of messed up in spots. And things didn't really jive the way I was hoping, but I was okay with it.
I'd still give it 3 stars out of 4. You know, and people complain, well, Snoke, they didn't give a backstory. Nobody complained during the first 3 Star Wars movies.
We all agree that's like that. Honestly, who cares? And they could literally write a book about him. We'll find out about Snoke later.
They'll do an animated series.
They'll put out stuff later that we'll find out about Snoke later. Everybody's just so up in arms about that. Let that be clear. It's like, that's not what I'm worried about. That's not what bothered me. Oh, I know.
That's not what you bothered you.
And actually, I love the idea that they took us by surprise. That whole scene where they're up against the Gregorian guards. I can't... Praetorian guards. I always forgot the stupid name of them. Anyway, you know, people speculate that they're you know, Knights of Ren, whatever, etc. But
well, they look like knights.
You know, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that
they look like cool action figures.
Yeah, definitely that. Definitely that.
And keep in mind too, with the Star Wars movies, a lot of it is made to sell merchandise.
No. And surprisingly enough, it was great that they actually used real action figures in that scene too. So I'm just, and forgive me everybody, because it's something that I'm literally like accepting as we were talking. Like I'm finally accepting it. It's something that I just have to deal with. And thank you for attending the therapy session, the Star Wars therapy session.
The next one could, you know, change your opinion on this one depending on the direction they go. You may go, oh, that makes sense, or you could go, oh my God, they're getting worse.
Can you guys give him a
hug? Please don't.
It's
well, you know, I just had a new idea, Ben, for the opening, and this may be an editable minute, but you know, just being as fan addicts, you know, and as passionate as we can be about certain things, it might not be a bad idea to like start each movie session as if we are coming to an AA meeting or something of that nature. My name is Ben, Joe, and I'm a fan addict, and I have something to get off my chest today, and we can certainly do like.
And I want to get my 30-day chip.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand the feeling because after I saw Avatar, even while I was watching Avatar, I just wanted to vent my frustration and hatred for that film. I didn't expect greatness, but I expected at least something that I didn't know what was going to happen every damn moment that it was on the screen, and so I get the level of hatred because I could talk. We could do an entire episode just on my hatred of Avatar.
Not the Airbender, but the blue people.
Yeah, no, the James Cameron. I need to fund my underwater submarine voyages. How about you just make documentaries about that?
What's really funny about that movie,
Jackass.
Is there's a good side-by-side of Titanic that was released a year to the day almost of Avatar.
You mean 12 years?
12 years?
Titanic was 97. Avatar was 09.
Well, yeah, sorry about that. But basically the same time of the year.
Oh, yeah. Christmas,
like he was working that. No, it was before. It was like Thanksgiving.
Well, November. Yeah.
Yeah. But just the scale of the two-dimensional characters that arise from Titanic, and then, you know, the love scene that goes on, the villains, the settings,
that's another movie.
And thank goodness we're getting 5 more Avatars. Thank goodness for that.
That's the thing. James Cameron.
Anyway, that's probably not worth going into that much more. But it's just
I'm psyched to see what he's doing underwater. He's doing like IMAX cameras underwater. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
He should just do a submarine movie and we'd be fine.
So just let it be known. Let this be known, everybody, because I know that there's going to be if we even post this stupid thing that
you having second thoughts now.
People. Oh, honestly, I feel like I know that a lot of people are just, you know, let the hate comments begin. Just understand this. I actually loved the movie the first time I saw it. My own mistake was going to see it a second time, and I love Star Wars so much that I go to see the films numerous times, as we all do. All of us Star Wars fanatics do that. And I just wanted it to get better. They usually do. And the problem with this is, and that's something that I need to work on. I think I need to actually go to therapy for this. But it's because it's something that's ripped me in two. I feel ripped apart because of this, and I guess there's some part of me that really identifies with Luke, and it's like I really anyway. I
You
might.
know what? I feel your pain, and
So-
it will get better, Ben.
So anyway,
It
it's
will
just
get
it's something
better.
that I'm really intrigued about episode 9, but at the same time I don't care. So that's the crazy part about this whole thing is that I literally am very excited about episode 9, but at the same time I'm not. So
Well, I would
anyway,
say be stoked on you get a Solo movie, but I forget you're not really a fan of Han Solo.
Just no, are you kidding me? I can't wait for the Han Solo. We'll talk about that in a second. So but one thing that I do request of Disney, and that's to make a Captain Phasma video game. I know that she's in now. You can play her in Battlefront, but that's not the same. I want a Captain Phasma video game, and that would be so incredible. Like that would literally, I might puke out tears. I would puke out all the tears that would be coming out of my face. They go back into my eyes and come out of my.
Let me ask you this:
So,
will they win you back if they do a Luke Skywalker Chronicles?
if they
and they explain what happened in his
yes. Yes.
They'd have to do it in an animated format, though.
Honestly, I don't care.
You'd be fine with that?
I would.
Would you accept it if they do it like in Clone Wars?
They have a Luke Skywalker
Or Star Wars Rebels.
They
Right.
have a Luke Skywalker book that isn't very good. I was really disappointed with that too. Anyway, that's a whole other video. But the point is that I love the film. It's an amazing film. I loved it at first. I think it's an extraordinary film. It's beautiful. Like Lucas said, it's beautifully made. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Why,
surprising.
did Lucas have problems with it too?
No. He just said it was beautifully made. But anyway, so I was blown away by it. It was a great film. It was beautiful, and it made me feel nothing. So
Can we go back to the Disney machine here for a minute? Can we all agree that Disney is one day going to own the entire country? Like their whole acquisition, like Rupert Murdoch, you needed $22 billion, you jackass. Like I really don't want to. Here's what pisses me off now when I go to the Toys R Us or the 7-Eleven, you see a Star Wars toy. It doesn't say Lucasfilm Star Wars. It says Disney Star Wars. It's not a Disney property. Like they acquired it, but they didn't create it. It's not something they were a part of for 30 some odd years.
that's funny that you mentioned that too, because I remember when they first acquired it, they were like, it didn't say Disney above it, but now they're putting Disney logo above it, aren't
and
they?
eventually, now that they
like
own
they're
Fox,
slowly creeping
it's going to
on
be
there.
Disney The
Interesting.
Simpsons,
That's
Disney Alien Covenant, Disney Predator 5. I'm like, I don't want Disney to own everything.
They should keep the
Well, that also
Fox
means they're
thing.
going to water down some of the stories. Like water down aliens, water down.
Well, if they leave 20th Century Fox to operate independently for the most part, what they've done with Lucasfilm and Pixar and Marvel, then maybe it won't be so bad. But I don't want them to add The Simpsons to their freaking Disneyland right there with Mickey and...
I think that's
Like,
the
it
big thing
doesn't-
for Star Wars and why they're doing that and putting Disney on there, because they are going to start implementing so many things in Disney World and Disneyland.
Marvel.
So I'm sorry to like that's like a whole video on
Disney's
itself.
Marvel.
Like
This
let's-
doesn't sound right.
No, Disney is an entertainment company. Disney Studios, Disney Animation, fine, that's great. But Disney as a corporation, evil. Like probably the Star Wars shirt I bought for The Last Jedi was probably made by 6-year-old kids in a sweatshop in China, because that's what Disney does. Evil. Shame on you, Disney. Don't sue us.
Sells to kids by kids. Yeah.
Isn't that slander, though? Are we okay to say this?
You can edit it out. We'll fix it in post.
Slanders ahead.
I'm just
Forget
keeping the legal
spoilers. We've got
department,
slanders.
aware of.
What happened to
We need a
freedom of
disclaimer at the
speech?
bottom
Come
of this, too.
on. Yeah, you can just say that this doesn't...
It went out with political correctness.
That's true.